So, David, the president, at least at this point, and hopefully this he keeps this streak alive, has had few, if any, legislative wins. Sadly, it looks like he may get one on the repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act. But as of this moment, things have been a little bit slow on that end. However, on the ceremonial signing of executive order end and the actual signing of executive orders, it appears as if he's been rather busy.
Yes.
Is that the case?
Yes. I mean, we've all seen these shots where the president's sitting in the Oval Office behind his desk, and he does that bizarre signature that he makes, and then he holds up the order for all the cameras to see. Look what I did. And he's done that at a rate that's as high as any president since Harry Truman. The executive orders and memoranda that have come out have been pretty extensive, and they cover virtually every aspect of public policy, from immigration to trade to financial services to regulations, you name it.
And we should say it's not just so that people can make those memes where they can write whatever they want, right, in the signature things that he shows around to everybody.
That's right. But, I mean, we have to be clear here because the executive orders are a little bit more or a little bit less than meets the eye. So he writes these executive orders, and it says, these are my rules for repealing Dodd-Frank, or this is my executive order for changing, parts of the immigration system. But, a lot of that needs to be done through passing of laws. So really, all he can do, not all he can do, but for the most part, what he can do in these executive orders is ask his federal agencies to write reports recommending changes in law or changes in regulations that would then they would have to go through the process, whether they would have to go through the legislative process and actually get passed by Congress, or whether they would have to go through the regulatory process, which is a very extensive, you have to give public notice and then ask for comment. It can take years to do that. So, a lot of times you'll see news outlets report that the president, through executive order, changed this or changed that, but that's not really how it works. A lot of these executive orders are really the asking and ordering of reviews.
But it is the case with some of them, anyways, where at the very least, I mean, one, they can be acted upon by the agencies, right, sometimes without engaging in that formal process. But it also indicates to some of these agencies, look, here's how I want you to exercise your discretion, right? I mean,
right. It's a roadmap. It's really, the Trump campaign didn't really have a policy apparatus. And so I see these reviews as an opportunity to set that policy apparatus. So when you write all these reports, this is now the strategy by which this administration will govern. And it's how they'll look at their various regulations that in terms of enforcement, and it's how they will set priorities for what they really want to do. So these reports, while somewhat ineffectual, are very important. And that's why, I think it's important to track whether they're actually being done, and right, if they're being done, whether they're being made public, and then what they say.
And I mean, for instance, and because you've written extensively on how much is not happening with these executive orders, but we should say, like, for instance, like in issues like regarding ICE, for instance, and immigration. Right. There have been, I know that ICE has issued now a formal policy change based upon the president basically saying don't follow the discretion that the Obama administration indicated you should. In other words, you're no longer just going after the violent criminals. anybody who's here without documentation is considered a criminal, and therefore you can go after that mom with 3 kids who happen to be American citizens, who's here, I don't know, working in any type of capacity. You can go after her with the same fervor as you can a gang member who's doing drive-by shootings or something.
Absolutely. And they didn't do that. They didn't have to do that through executive order, just like they didn't really have to say to the Health and Human Services Department, do what you can to undermine the Affordable Care Act. There was an executive order on that, but, I assume that Tom Price would have done that anyway. And I assume that an ICE with, the staff installed from this president would have done that anyway. But in the area,
you're not suggesting he's doing this for show, are you?
I'm suggesting that there is some showmanship involved. Yes. And if it's all showmanship, then let's see what actually gets done here. And that's why I embarked on this project, to actually track these executive orders. And what I'm finding is that a good bit of them aren't getting done. And it's not like, oh, well, he did half of them. The administration did half of them, so that's okay. They impose these deadlines. They are the ones that ordered and issued these reports. If half of them aren't getting done, that's good for basketball, but it's terrible for government.
Right. All right, so let's talk about this. You write that the president has ordered 88 different actions for federal agencies in 2017.
Right. And 156 overall, but that's like an undercount because it doesn't count things which didn't have a deadline, number one, because I just didn't have a mechanism to do that. And, it counts things that every agency across the federal government has to do as one action when, there are hundreds of agencies across the federal government. So that's a significant undercount, but it's the best I could do. And 27 of these deadlines, probably a few more, at the time of our taping here, 27 deadlines have been passed. And we can only confirm that I think 14 or maybe 15 of them have been done. And of those, about 13 of those are executive order reviews, like things that have to be put into a report and given to the president. And only 2 of those out of the 13 have been made public. So we have to sort of take at their word, these agencies, that they've actually delivered these reports at all. And we know that 2 of the reports that have been delivered late, not on time, sometimes up to a week late. And several of these have just not been met at all. And the public information officers at these federal agencies have said, we're getting to it, essentially.
All right, we got to take a break, David. But when we come back, I want to hear about some of the reports that actually have come in, some of the deadlines that have been met, and what this tells us about the administration. I mean, we have, there's, I think people are familiar with the concept of one's eyes being bigger than one's stomach. But there's a quality here of either the White House is on a deliberate campaign to pretend that it's doing stuff.
Yes.
Or it could be that the White House is so dysfunctional that they don't have the ability to judge what their capacity will be to get these things done. Either way, and maybe they're not even mutually exclusive. We got to take. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, you will tell us more about it. We're talking to David Dayen, and we're talking about the awful lot of homework Trump had assigned himself and has yet to hand in. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio.